Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today I'm going to be doing the Altogether Spooky Quilt from the Fort Worth Fabric Studios. I went ahead and I bought the kit. My air conditioner's kind of bumping it. And I'm going to show you my little setup on how I start, just to give you an idea. I mean, a lot of people pull it all out and they don't know how to begin with it, and I'm going to give you a little idea of what I do before I start cutting it. Then I'm going to show you how to do a few pieces of subcutting for those that have never done subcutting. So the very first thing is I put down my directions here and I lay out my fabric and I group it in the colors. Alright, that's all I've done. I'm going to be using these little alphabetties, which are these little blue and white things, and these clips to mark the fabric. So all I do is take my paper first, and I'll show you here. So the first thing I do is letter A is going to be the star scattered lavender, which is 7 inches by the width of the fabric. So what I'm doing is I'm picking out the purple, because that's what lavender is. Here's my lavender. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find whichever fabric is 7 inches. So I take my ruler. I mean, you can tell by looking at this, this is not 7 inches. You're looking at this, the width. This is the width of the fabric going that way. So I guess you could call this the height, but I call it the width. So we already know that that one's not big enough. Let me put this out here so you can see it. So what I got to do is I got to put a piece of fabric. I went in and put the one up here at the top, and it's got to go down to this 7 here. So we know this isn't going to fit. If I put this up here, that's a 4-inch width or length, however you want to look at it. Width of the fabric is the long part, so that's not it. The next one isn't much bigger, so that's not it. So then I'm going to look at this one here, put it up to the edge. It's 6 inches, so that's not it. So we'll go here. That's 6 inches, so that's not it. Well, that leaves us one fabric left. So when we put that up here, that is our 7-inch. So this is the fabric that's going to be marked A. So all I'm going to do to start out with is put an A and put a clip on it. And that's it, and set that aside. Now I'm going to do every one of these, and I went ahead and I have all my letters out here. See if you can see them all. They're all here. And enough clips. There's 15, so it's A through 0. I mean, not 0. A through O of the alphabet. And so I'm going to do each one and have them all divvied up. And then when I get done, I'll put them in a pile here, and then I'll get ready to subcut, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, here they're all laid out. I've got them all marked. And they're all sorted. And then this is going to be the backing, and this is actually the binding. So I'm just going to set these aside and then go ahead, and I'm going to show you a little bit about subcutting. Now, my first rule of thumb is I will use the same ruler for this project as well as the rotary cutter, so that it all comes out correctly as I cut it. Because we already know that all rulers are not created equal. First thing you do is you want to cut off your selvage. For those that don't know what a selvage is, I'm going to show you here. Let me get this close to the camera. And if you look at the bottom down there, it's got a whole bunch of little holes. That is your selvage. Now that's one end of the selvage. The other end, always, if it's any kind of good fabric, will actually have the information about the fabric. So we know that this is Riley Blake Designs pattern and the number, and it's for the boo, as you can see, fabric boo. I can't read what it says. But anyway, that you want to keep this end, because if you ever had run out and you were making a project, you could try and see if you can find this. But if you had cut this end off first and threw it away, then you're at a loss to know what it is. I'm going to cut on the other end of the selvage, and all I'm doing is cutting it off, and I go right up to the circle. I go as close to these holes as I can get, because you're wanting to take them off. I also square my fabric, which means I line my fabric up against the edge of this fabric here, and then take that selvage off, and I just trash this, I don't use it. And now I will go ahead and measure, and this is what it says. So we're going to have fabric A There's one, you're going to cut this fabric into one 5 by 5 inch strip. So that's a 5.5 inch strip. And then we're going to do the subcutting. So you take your fabric first and you cut it in a 5.5 strip. That's before you subcut. You don't start subcutting off of this strip. You're going to make the strip first. Now what you're wanting to do is you want to make sure that this edge, this is folded in half, and you want to make sure this edge is right along itself. And normally you would trim it off, and I'm using the fold of my fabric as the part that is my straight of grain line. So if you can see, I have fabric here, but when I line it up, there's no fabric up there. So I have to move it to make sure I get fabric up there. And then I put a weight on it. And then I will slowly take this edge off, which makes it straight. There we go. And then I take a ruler, and this is the same kind of rulers. I lift this off because if I slide it, I'm afraid that I'm going to actually move the edge. On this ruler, which is a Creative Grizz ruler, this little part here represents 1/4 inch, and this represents a 1/2 inch. So you go to the 1/4 inch is how you put it up against the next ruler, because this is a true 1 inch from here to the edge of the ruler. This is not 1 inch. See, the 6 is not a 1 inch to here, nor is the 5. So you go down to the 1, and we're looking for 5.5. So I'm going to put my ruler right here at 5.5. See where it shows 5.5? Right there. So I lay it up here, and I try to get a long ruler so that it takes up most of this fabric. So I go 5.5. I put it right on the line, butt this ruler up against it. I put my weight on it, and then I take this ruler and I slide it up so that it stays at a 1/2 inch at this end, and I move it down, and I look to see that it's a 1/2 inch, 5.5 on this end. This way I know this piece of fabric right here is straight. It hasn't curved to the right or the left. And then I cut. So it's 5.5, so you can double check it, because you don't want to be looking at this piece. This is off, okay? So 5.5, 5.5, so the whole length is 5.5. And I slowly cut it, holding down on my ruler so that this ruler here does not move. Now I have a 5.5 inch of piece of fabric to subcut. So this is extra, set it aside. Remember now, I've already cut my selvage off here. Directions say we're going to cut 4 pieces, 5.5 each. Let me back the camera up a minute. So if I turn my fabric this direction, my 5.5 is right here. There's my 5.5. If I line it up on this left-hand side, I can cut on this right-hand side. And then what I'll do is I will square up my fabric. I've got my, there we go. I've got my tripod sitting on my fabric, believe it or not, which is not a good thing. See if I can straddle that a little bit and go up here with it. Because not only do you want to do your 5.5 and you want to pay attention to here, but you also want to try to get it as straight as you can so that the fabric isn't distorted when you sew it. Alright? And then put pressure on it. And then that's 5.5, so that's 1. And then we're going to do it to 4 of them. That is what subcutting is. And that's what I wanted to show you. And like I said, be sure and use the same ruler and put your markings in the same place. So if you go to the left of your fabric with your mark, then make sure you do it on all of them. If you go on it, so I am right on my fabric with this, then I've got to make sure that I am on every piece like that. or else it won't come out right. If I go in to the right a little bit so that I can actually just about see my fabric sticking out of this, that's going to be a little bit bigger. So that's what you've got to keep in mind. Now, I did not starch my fabric for this project. I just ironed it, and that's it. That's my 4 pieces, and I'll re-iron them because I got to fold in them, and this is how much fabric I end up with. Let me back it up here. This is how much leftover fabric I have out of that. So if I had made a mistake, I had plenty to rectify it. That doesn't mean that we're going to get extra for all of this. So that's how you subcut. And that's all I want to show you. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut them all out. And then I'm going to start the first block. Okay, so I just now thought about something else I wanted to say to you. Let's say that you didn't get this kit, but you want to do this and you don't know how to do it because you don't understand it. All right, so this is what you want to know. When you download this paper, pick out your fabric to the colors that you want. So looking at this, the first piece of fabric they're using is purple. That doesn't not mean that you need to have purple. You can use any color you want. Just keep them in mind of what you're using. Now, however much you're using, it doesn't make any difference whether you've got a yard of the fabric, a quarter of a yard of the fabric. It doesn't make any difference. What you're trying to think of is you need the width of the fabric. So you cannot use a fat quarter for this. That's not what they're talking about when they're talking about the width of the fabric. It needs to be the entire length. So fabric comes 34, 35, it comes 44, 45, it comes 108 inches. All of those are the width of the fabric. So that's from one end to the other. When you open up a piece of fabric at the store and you hold it out, that's the width of the fabric. The length is what you buy. So if you buy 6 inches, you've bought 6 inches by the width of the fabric. So in this case, you would have to have 7 inches. Now, I wouldn't go to the store and say, I want 7 inches of this fabric, because that 7 inches won't be exactly 7 from end to end, because remember, the very first thing I did was I took off a little bit to make it all even. Okay, so you need to keep that in mind. So you can take this paper with you to the store, or you can just pull right off of your shelf if you've got anything, and you can make this. Just keep in mind, it's already telling you everything. This is 22 inches. It's not even the width of the fabric, so it's smaller than the width of the fabric. But keep in mind, this piece is the width of the fabric. So they've done one piece at the width of the fabric, plus they have another piece of the same color at 22 inches. Okay, so that's what you're paying attention to when you want to buy it and make it yourself. Okay? And if you go to a fabric store and you take this paper, they're going to help you. Okay? You're not going to have to do it all by yourself. They'll be more than happy to help you if you don't know how to do it. All right? Okay, that's all what I just wanted to put in real quick before I start on my blocks. Right, when it's all done, I went ahead and I just relabeled it. So they look like this. And the binding is this black here with the polka dots. I mean the little diamonds actually. That's the binding. And so now we're ready for block 1. And if you've come this far, you want to get your M, which is this here. This is the color M. You want to get your H, which is the pumpkins here. And then you want to get the D, which is the purple here. And these 3 colors are what's going to make up our pumpkins. So we'll get started on that. Alright, so to begin with, we're going to use these colors. So you're going to get your orange. There's 4 of them here for your pumpkin. We're making 4 pumpkins. You're going to use your M, and you're using 3 of them. So you're using all of the little squares that are 16, 2.5 by 2.5. You're using these 2, which are identical in size. It's a D and an M, and it is going to create the stem on the pumpkin. And then this is on the right hand and the left hand side of the pumpkin. And this is the pumpkin. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take all of these, and on the back we're going to put a diagonal line across, because when we get finished we are going to put 1 on every corner like this, and then we're going to sew diagonally across there, cut off the excess, and flip it over. Okay, sort of like a snowball effect. Let's do that first. I'm going to get them marked. Okay, so I have every one of these little corners on, and I just need to sew them. I just laid them on there. I didn't pin them. They seem to be sticking to that fabric pretty good, so I'm just going to do each one. If you want to chain stitch them, by all means, you can go ahead and do that. And you're just sewing across the line that you've made on your square. Shouldn't have any problem starting it. It's not at the end, so it's in the middle of the fabric, so it shouldn't be jamming in your machine. I'm going to have to keep an eye on my bobbin because it looks like it's getting low. Now when you're all finished, you'll have 4 of them that look just like that before you cut them. You'll have 4 of them that looks just like that, and now we're going to cut all the ends off. So we can get them all ironed open. They're going to look like that, all 4 of them. I went ahead and I ironed towards the dark. They look pretty cute. They look like they're trying to talk. Now what it wants you to do is take all these fabrics, the D and the M, that are the same size. You're going to flip them upside down. You're going to measure 3/4 the way up from the bottom. So this is my half, that's my 3/4. I just go, put a little mark right there, as you can see it. Then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to go from the corner to that mark. That's all you're doing. And you're drawing a line. Okay? And you're going to do it on all your fabric. Repeat the process. You're going to go 3/4 the way up. You're going to put a mark. I'm not left-handed, so I can't do it the other way. So I put a mark right there. You can see it. And then you go to the bottom down here. And I put my pin down there. And then up on the top. And I just go down. Just like that. You're just marking it. This is a friction pin, so if it doesn't mark correctly, all I got to do is put the iron to it and it'll disappear. So do that to every one of your 2 little sets, because it's 4 each. This is how we're making our stem. Now take them all and you're going to cut where you drew your line. Now with the right sides together, you're going to match them up like this, and that point will be sticking out. These are your little dog ears, and I'm going to put a little pin on it, and then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do every one of them. We're doing them, well, I'm doing them 1/4 inch. Take a look at this one. And it should look just like that. Okay. So go ahead and do all of them. I have 4 of those that look like that. And this is where we're going to put these sides on. So we're going to put it like this. Actually, I got it upside down. The dark part goes at the bottom. And like that. That's how we're going to put it together. Now before we continue, it says to make them all 3 inches. So you want more purple because that is the stem. So just measure it 3 inches and take it off the top. And then this piece will fit right there because that's 3 inches. All right? So we'll just take it off of here. Now iron these little things beforehand. You want to iron them. And I'm going to try to square mine up. So this is what I do to square mine. Just like that. Put it on the line. And take a little bit off of there. Okay. And I'm lining it up with a line. Let's move it up a little bit here. So I got a line going right up here, and that's what I'm looking at as I cut it off. I'm not going to worry about that tail, I don't think. There we go. Just trash all of this. And now we're going to sew one on one side and one on the other. All right, let's do that now. You guys, I'm still doing my scant 1/4 inch. I put 2 pins in there. I put one where the fold is at on the fabric below, and then one here at the end, just so that it wouldn't curve on me. And then we'll just do the same thing. The only difference is this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew with me seeing the inside of the fabric and at the end, so it doesn't twist on me. I can control the first part that goes in. There's what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and iron it. When you get this far, you're going to notice that this is longer than that. So it's 3 inches high, and now you need to cut it down to 8.5 long. So you can do it a couple of different ways. I'll show you how I did it. Sure, it was even across the top. Took my ruler and went just like this. Put it over here on the other side. And if you can't do that and you have a rolling table, by all means go ahead and use it, or you can turn it. And then I just did it like this. That's it. In it like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Alright, now's the time you want to make sure that your pumpkins are right side up and that your stem is at the bottom. So your dark purple is what you're going over when you sew. Don't have your pumpkin upside down, your stem upside down. You'll be all frustrated when you have to take it out and put it back in. Believe me, I know it's happened. It didn't happen to me this time, but I thought about it. So I figured I better mention it just in case you get distracted, kids come in or something. Your program got really good and you stopped and then you forgot what you were doing. If you sit and watch TV or whatever. I know how that distraction is. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead. You guys finish all the rest of your pumpkins up. I'm going to iron this one open. And I'm going to show it to you. Let me get you a close-up of one. There you go. I still think they look like they're talking. Like they're trying to talk and say something. They turned out really good. This was a fun block to make. I hope you guys had a good time. And y'all are all caught up now. I'm way behind, but I'm going to try to put this up real quick so everybody can follow along. And Monday, I believe, comes out our next one. So everybody take care. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, click on the little bell. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.